So this is Ron and Sharon Weiss talking about asparagus. So will you start by just telling us a little bit of your story about how you got started with the asparagus production?
Well, basically how we got started was we owned some land that had asparagus on it already, and we sold that, where we used to pick our asparagus. And so we decided that we would plant some, get started. So I did by seed, and that's how we kind of got started. Plant some in the back of our garden, in our garden and stuff. So.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just been kind of expanding now on that gradually as we've been going. But
Okay.
say we started out with the seed, then we went to start buying some of the roots,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just kept on growing.
And over what period of time has this taken place?
Well, we started actually 10 years ago.
Okay.
With the seed. So we've been expanding now up to, we got 2 acres that we're harvesting, so.
Good. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned about the production of asparagus in northern Minnesota? Do you have any tips that you'd give others if they're getting started?
Well, I like to, before we start planting it, I like to check the fertility, get soil test.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to get it built up to in the high range of everything, just before you start, because it's a deep root, so it's hard to get it down there, down to the roots, fertility afterwards. That's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, like, if you have, like, say a windy day when you're harvesting, or a hard rain,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that dirt will build up in the heads of the asparagus. That's another thing that you want to make sure that you really, really wash those good, because when your customers get that, otherwise they'll have that dirt in them.
Mhm.
So you got to really wash them good. That's one of the tips that we've learned that you need to do. So.
Good. So how have you approached marketing the product?
Well, we have done farmers market.
Mhm.
We do the one in Mentor, Minnesota. That's a great one. It's just a few miles from our house. We've also done grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
We've done like maybe 6 or 7 local grocery stores around the area. And then we've done we've added our logo on the back of the end gate of our pickup.
Mhm.
So you have that Weiss Asparagus Farm on the back as kind of an advertisement.
Mhm. So do people come to your farm to buy?
And we also have,
Absolutely,
Mhm.
people that come, and just word of mouth, basically. When I sell you some asparagus, I say, tell your friends.
Mhm.
So that's kind of another advertisement for us, so.
That's one thing about, if you're gonna get into asparagus production, you have to have markets lined up, because you pick every day, and it has to be marketed every day.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, you can't just put it on a shelf and the next month sell it. You have to sell it within a couple of days.
As you approached grocery stores, were they were the produce buyers aware that they could just buy from you, or did you have to?
Well,
There's been a lot of sort of misunderstanding about who can sell to whom, and
they like the local
uh-huh.
produce. They welcome it. But we had to come to them and say, we had asparagus. They wouldn't have known that otherwise. But
Sure.
we came to them, and they more than welcomed us coming.
Great.
With it. So.
Say a little bit about what you've learned about variety selection for your location.
Well, we started out with the Mary Washington,
Okay.
but it has the female plant, and you get a lot of seeds in there. And in the fall, when it ferns out, you get a lot of seeds there, and they drop on the ground. And then you have a lot of small plants start, and that's just like a weed in there. You don't really want that. So now we've gone to more of the male varieties.
They put in another, like the Jersey Supreme and Jersey Night. We just put them in this last spring, so we haven't tested it yet as far as as far as yield and all that stuff it does. But that is an all male, so it should do. You won't have the seeds
Mm-hmm.
dropping.
You talked a little bit about the need to sell things right as you harvest. Can you kind of walk us through the harvesting process and the how you manage that, and then how you store it, even though it's a short period of time? How you handle it?
Yeah, right now,
Okay.
actually, the harvesting, we well, you have to, basically, you're out there every day. You're cutting, you're out every day. We have, like, our family right now consists of our 4 kids, us, and then our parents will come over and help too. But you pick it, and then you come in and you have to, basically, we sort it by the spear, you know, small, medium, large. So it's ready for the stores or to the customers. But before that, you have to wash it, and we trim the ends a little too, so they're getting the good quality. We trim the ends off. And then we are gonna redo we right now have refrigeration and stuff, but we're gonna check into some more coolers and stuff for that. But yeah, they're basically getting the day you pick, or the next day is when they're getting it, so. It's very fresh, very good quality stuff.
And it's real important to get it cooled down as quick as you possibly can. And now we're starting to go into what they call hydro cooling, where you get it into cold water, soak it for about 10, 15 minutes just in real cold water, just to help it cool down faster.
So you've mentioned that you have your children and even your parents sometimes involved. Can you describe a little bit about how you run that staffing part of your business, and if what advice you have for others who want to include especially their family in their business?
Yeah, right now we basically have our kids and, like I said, our parents, and some neighbors will come over and help us too. But and eventually, I'm sure we'll have to hire. But so far, we've had them, and they bring their boyfriends back too, so it's kind of nice. They help too. So we grab anybody that's willing to help, because it does get busy, very busy.
So the harvesting season, that's the busiest time, I'm gathering. What's the length of that season?
Usually it's that first week in May to the end of June is when we.
And you'll have about 1 week of that time that it really grows. I mean, there's just a peak time for about a week.
Yeah, there's a
And
peak time
you'll
where
get
you're.
a lot of asparagus right that week. It tapers off, and then you get kind of an average amount later. But for that 1 week, it'll really keep you busy.
And you're like, what did I get myself into?
So your kids are all still at home, or they're around anyway?
Yeah, 3 in college.
Okay, 3 in college.
1 at
Oh
home
my
is a
goodness.
sophomore, so they're around, they come home.
I think so they've kind of grown up with this too. If you've been doing this for 10 years,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that the value of that family time together really shows up a little bit later. You know, while you're in it, it's just work. But after the fact, both kids and parents are really glad they had all that time together. So what kind of feedback do you get from your customers? And I guess you've got both customers that you know face to face, and then some you're dealing with the grocery store and they're selling to customers. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you get that feedback, as well as what folks tell you about the product.
I guess actually the customers like the quality.
Mm-hmm.
Quality is everything. You can't compare it to the stores, what they say.
Mhm.
You know, you're getting it, the day we pick it, we're bringing it to them. They're getting the quality, they like that.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, when we come to the end of June, or to the end of our season, they don't want it to end. Can't you keep going? Well, it's the end of the, season for asparagus, but they love it that much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the comments we've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of comments are, it's the best asparagus they've ever tasted. You
Mhm.
hear a lot of that.
And you do delivery. Can you say a little bit about how you work that into your business model? And I imagine that has a lot to do with that needs to be sold right now.
Like when I go to work each day, I'll bring like a cooler. I just know I will get rid of it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I do.
Mm-hmm.
They just know that, and they'll come and they'll ask, do you have any asparagus with you? And I do. So I do that. And other than that, then we bring, like I said, to the stores. I mean,
Okay.
deliver there too. So.
And then there's some businesses that house quite a few people in a building. Sometimes someone will call and ask, we'll bring a cooler. Maybe sell 30, 40 pounds or something in a
Mhm.
business place right there.
Those are great examples. So you're at about a 2-acre production now, which I can imagine is a lot of asparagus.
Yeah.
I think I have 8 plants. How do you think your production matches up with the demand in the market? Or what do you see in terms of room for expansion or room for other people to fill some of that market? Can you say a little bit about how your scale matches up with the demand in the market?
Well, actually, he's got plans for another pretty good sized field coming up for next year.
Okay.
I did preparation for this last fall, and so we planted another, well, she's got a 10-acre field that we'll be probably looking into planting.
Okay.
Yeah, so I set goals,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is to have a asparagus festival down the road. And we will have, like I said, this year we planted the purple asparagus, we did the Jersey Supreme, the Jersey Night, and then we have our Mary Washington. So we have different varieties, and we're gonna do something with that. We're gonna have an asparagus festival down, like I said, 2-3 years down the road is our plans.
Mhm.
So we'll be adding to this 2 acres. So, sounds scary, but we'll have to hire help, I'm sure.
So we asked a question of how far do people travel to buy your product, and from the way you access the market, you're going to them a lot.
Right, but the farmer's market brings in a lot of people there. We've had people from Washington,
Mhm.
California,
Mhm.
that will bring back to their families there. They come, they know we have it, so
Mhm.
they come right to us and say they're from Washington, and they want to bring some back, so.
So can you share one of your biggest lessons learned? Fabulous success, or that might be a challenge that you had to overcome?
I'd say you need to be committed to this project if you're gonna get into asparagus growing.
Mhm.
It's a lot of work.
You should learn, do some studying up on it. Like, we've traveled to different people who grow asparagus,
Mhm.
several different ones, and
Mhm.
get some of their ideas. It's a learning experience, that's for sure.
Yeah. Are they nearby, or are they kind of further away? The
Well,
other-
this summer we went, was it Altona?
Oh,
Canada.
Manitoba. Uh-huh.
With their you never stop learning, let's put
Mhm.
it that way. You're always picking up some tips and,
Mhm. So from the time that you start, that you put those crowns in, or maybe you can say both from seed to spear,
Mhm.
and from crown to spear, what's the time frame that we're
Harvesting.
talking about here? Yeah.
if you plant, by seed, it'll take the full 3 years
Okay.
before you can start to harvest. Now, if you can get a year crown or a 2-year crown, of course,
Mm.
but it takes 3 years, before you can start to harvest, but that'd lessen your time if you got a 1-year crown.
Mhm.
You can start harvesting in 2 years, so.
Okay.
You can start just taking, just a few off of it.
Yeah.
You can't do a full harvest, just the first year or so, you just take just a few spears off of each one and then just leave it. But
Mhm.
after 3 years, then you can do the full harvest.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to overdo it for the root system, so you have for next, following years.
So you grow this in an outdoor field. Do you have wind protection, or do you have irrigation system? How do you?
We have trees planted all the way around it,
Okay.
just for wind protection.
Mhm.
But we don't have irrigation on it. If it
Okay.
gets real dry, we can just run like a garden, hose out and do a little bit of sprinkling like that. But
Okay.
when you're small, acres, you can do that, but
Yeah. Well, what do you love most about what you do
I
here?
like gardening, so that's one of my, I love
Mhm.
that, and I like talking to the people and communicating with the people, and you meet and make lots of friends.
Mhm.
So I love that part of it.
Mhm. And we have an open-ended question about anything else that you'd like to share with the folks who will be tuning in.
So I just say, if you want to get into asparagus growing, you got to be committed, dedicated, because you have to be out there every day picking, whether the sun is shining, it's raining, could be sleeting too. We've had that happen, but you want to be out there and picking, because they still come up, whether it's on cooler days, they still will produce.
Mhm.
So, we've had some where it was sleet coming down and we were out there picking, and we saved over 100 some pounds at one time. Otherwise, it would have been done for.
Mhm.
The spears would be, it would have froze.
gotten
so,
frozen,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so.
and you do have to pick all of them. You can't leave any go fern out, otherwise it'll quit producing.
Okay.
So you do have to keep picking everything right until
So that's why I say you have to be out there picking it every day.
Yeah. So for that 2 acres, what's the time commitment, total sort of staff hours per day during that 8 weeks or 9 weeks? About 3 hours worth of picking?
Just picking time.
Bring it in, trim,
We
clean.
got another, yeah, because you want it to be,
Mhm.
good when you bring it to your customers or to the stores and stuff. So, yeah, like I said, we sort it,
Yeah,
wash it and all that, so that's another step in itself, but yeah,
so that's
we put in some late hours.
to be pretty full-time for a few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now with this extra acres, now we'll be getting more mechanized, we'll get more machines
Okay.
for picking, to sitting on, and to ride with on the machines there and stuff, so.
And right now, we just pick it, walking it,
Yeah.
picking it ourselves and stuff, but
So does the machine actually cut, or do you just
No,
have
you
people
gotta ride
sitting,
on it.
cutting, and riding?
You have
Yeah,
to sit on it and ride
Yeah.
it and then
okay,
pick, hand pick.
yeah.
yeah, it's labor
fascinating.
intense, so.
Yeah. Do you do tours? Do you have
Uh,
people stop by, or?
We haven't, but with this Asparagus Festival that I plan on doing,
Mhm.
we will,
Fantastic idea, and
and we'll have things for all ages to, kids and, of all ages to do, so. We even talked about doing a color run and,
Ah.
just different things and
Mhm.
coordinating with the asparagus that we're,
Mhm.
having them pick some for the day and, just different stuff like that, so.
I'm wondering how kids, I think if kids are exposed, my guess is that if young children are exposed to asparagus,
Well,
it doesn't take too long for them to acquire the taste to
I
like
can
it.
tell you a little bit on that too,
Okay.
because I have nephews that they would just snicker, oh God, a vegetable. It wasn't, no. But I said, you have to try it, because once you try it, you'll like it. I'm sure you'll like it. They love it.
Mm-hmm.
They beg for it. So, yeah, it's changed. I mean, they eat it. He comes over to our house and they'll, can we have some asparagus, Sharon? So, yeah, they like it.
It's such a easy, it's crunchy and it's
There's
such
many ways you
such a
can
great way to
prepare
eat it fresh, yeah.
Some
And
have it raw, and some,
yeah,
steam it, putting it in the oven for a little bit, or on
the grill.
grill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's many ways of preparing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things too, I thought at this Asparagus Festival, we could show them, the many different ideas of how you can prepare
Yeah.
asparagus. So.
Let's see, we've gone through those. Maybe I'll ask a little bit more on the production side. You talked about wanting to make sure that your soil was really well fertilized. Do you talk a little bit about how you prepare the soil, and then I don't know if you do any mulching or keep everything cultivated? Just say a little bit about the production.
Well, the year before, you want to try and keep the weeds down, so you don't have a whole bunch of weed seeds
Mhm.
coming in for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, then you try to have it work deep and loose. Because asparagus doesn't like to be wet soil. It should be well drained,
Mm-hmm.
a little on the sandier side and well drained.
Mm-hmm.
So that otherwise there's a bunch of different root diseases if it stays into ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the first fields we did do. It was on some heavier ground, and that did get disease in the winter killed.
Mm.
So you do have to have some lighter growth.
Yeah, the roots will rot, they don't make it if it's too heavy.
Okay. So then it starts to come up in the spring, and you have to control weeds
Yeah.
again.
Mhm.
So do you do mechanical plus some sprays, or how do you manage that?
We spray it in the spring
Mhm.
it's way before anything is up even growing. As soon as the snow melts and it works best if it's a little bit rough in the morning. The ground is frozen, you don't
Mhm.
safely try and spray it.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise you leave ruts all over if you try. Because you have to have, I think, about 2 weeks before any spears are coming
Before
in.
your spears start
Okay,
coming up.
so you're talking about the end of April.
Yeah.
So nothing's ever put on,
Pretty
chemicals.
safe to assume you can get a frost somewhere in
Oh,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
A frosty morning,
Yep.
yeah. Okay.
But we don't spray anything on when anything's growing or picking. Nothing gets sprayed on.
Okay. And then do you cover them in the fall? Do you cover with straw or anything like that? or-
Actually, we just leave them burn out.
Okay.
We leave them and the snow actually captures that
Captures.
moisture for the,
Yeah.
protection actually for our hard winters here in northern Minnesota. It's
Yep.
been a good thing.
Yeah. So after the end of June, you just kind of let it be on its own, and the
Yep.
ferns grow out.
Well, there's still some things we have to watch out for.
Okay.
Like there's asparagus beetles.
Mm.
If they move in, you do have to spray for them. Otherwise, if you don't, they'll lay eggs and it gets down to roots, and then the next year you'll have some deformed spears coming up.
Okay.
So you do have to spray for
Mhm.
it's for the next year's production that you're spraying.
Mhm. So what's your favorite way to eat asparagus, and what's your family's favorite way?
Oh, we like it steamed.
Mhm.
We also like it on the grill too.
Mhm.
So, like I said, my nephews, when they come over, they like when I put it in the oven or on the grill. They like
Mhm.
that. A little olive oil and Parmesan cheese, a little seasoning of your choice. I
Uh-huh.
love it. Love it. So.
Great.